Welcome to the Wellbeing Podcast, where every episode is a step toward a healthier, happier you. Let's
Mhm.
grow, thrive,
Yeah.
and shine together today.
We're going to explore a concept that could revolutionize the way you experience life. It's freeing yourself from your mind. So
Hmm.
imagine your mind as this tireless chatterbox roommate, sometimes helpful, often distracting, and occasionally, let's be honest, driving you completely up the wall.
This is a very apt analogy. We often go through life completely unaware of how much our thoughts and mental patterns influence our emotions and
It,
experiences.
it's almost like we're on autopilot, letting this mental chatter run the show. And that's precisely what we're diving into today. We're exploring the work of a renowned spiritual teacher who offers a pathway to what he calls enlightenment.
Enlightenment, in this context, refers to a state of liberation from suffering, a profound sense of peace and inner freedom. It's not about becoming some kind of superhuman being, but about realizing a fundamental truth. You are not your mind.
Wait, hold on. You are not your mind. That sounds a little out there, isn't thinking?
Yeah.
Like a big part of what makes us human. It is. But here's the key distinction. You are the awareness that experiences the thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. It's like the difference between the screen in a movie theater and the movie being projected onto it. You wouldn't say the screen is the movie, would you?
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. So
Okay.
instead of getting lost in every thought that pops up,
Yeah.
we can learn to observe them without getting swept away.
Exactly. The teacher we're referencing calls this technique watching the thinker. It's about recognizing that you have a choice in how you respond to your thoughts. You don't have to believe every thought that crosses your mind.
That's like having the ability to hit the pause button on those mental movies.
Right. Precisely. And by pausing, by creating some space between yourself and your thoughts, you can start to see them more objectively. You can ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Is it true? Or is it just a habitual pattern that's causing me unnecessary stress?
That makes so much sense. I know for me, a lot of my anxiety comes from dwelling on past mistakes or worrying about things that haven't even happened yet. It's like my mind is constantly creating these worst-case scenarios.
And that's the ego at work. It thrives on problems and conflicts,
Yeah.
constantly searching for something to fix or worry about. It's almost like it needs those problems to feel important,
Yeah.
to maintain a sense of self.
So the ego is like that voice that says, I'm not good enough. I need that new car to be happy.
That's a great example. The ego is constantly comparing, judging, and seeking external validation. It's that part of us that gets caught up in stories of lack and limitation.
This is all starting to feel really liberating. Like there's a way to break free from these mental patterns that have been causing me so much stress.
And there is. By practicing techniques like watching the thinker and mindfulness, we can cultivate a deeper sense of awareness, a space of inner peace that exists beyond the incessant chatter of the mind.
Okay, let's dive into those techniques. What exactly does watching the thinker involve, and how can we bring more mindfulness into our daily lives?
Watching the thinker is essentially about becoming an observer of your own mental activity. It's like taking a step back and noticing your thoughts without getting caught up in their storylines.
So instead of being swept away by that current of thoughts, we're learning to stand on the riverbank and watch it flow by.
Exactly. And mindfulness is a powerful tool that helps us do just that. It's about bringing your attention to the present moment, observing your breath, your body, your surroundings without judgment. Imagine you're walking up a flight of stairs. Instead of letting your mind wander, you focus on each step, feeling the pressure on your feet, sensing the movement of your muscles.
So it's like hitting the reset button on our attention, bringing it back to the here and now. Because I know I spend a lot of time lost in thought, completely missing out on what's happening right in front of me.
That's a common experience.
Mhm.
Our minds are incredibly adept at pulling us away from the present moment, either dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. But the truth is, the present moment is all we ever really have.
I've tried meditation before, and I'll admit I struggle with it. My mind just won't quiet down. Are there any other practical techniques that can help us cultivate this watching the thinker mindset?
Absolutely. One technique is to simply label your thoughts as they arise. For example, you might notice a thought like, I'm not good enough, and mentally label it as thinking. By doing this, you're creating a little bit of separation between yourself and the thought, recognizing that it's just a mental event, not a truth about who you are.
That's a really interesting technique. I can see how that would help to depersonalize those negative thoughts, to stop taking them so seriously.
Another helpful practice is to focus on your breath. The breath is like an anchor to the present moment. Whenever you notice your mind wandering, gently guide your attention back to the sensation of your breath. You can even make it a game. Count each inhale and exhale, aiming to reach 10 breaths without getting distracted.
I love that idea. It sounds much more manageable than trying to empty my mind completely.
And remember, the goal isn't to stop thinking altogether. That's impossible. It's about shifting our relationship to our thoughts. We can learn to observe them without getting hooked by their stories, without letting them dictate our emotions and experiences.
So if we're not our thoughts, what are we? What is this awareness that's doing the observing?
That's a profound question, and one that philosophers and spiritual seekers have been pondering for centuries. Some might describe it as our true nature, our essence, the part of us that's connected to something greater than ourselves.
It sounds almost mystical, but I'm also sensing that it's deeply personal, that each individual has to discover it for themselves.
You're absolutely right. It's a journey of self-discovery, and there's no one-size-fits-all answer. But through practices like watching the thinker and mindfulness, we can start to peel back the layers of conditioning and mental chatter, revealing the truth of who we truly are.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about thoughts, but what about emotions? They feel so powerful, so immediate. Can we really apply this watching the thinker approach to our feelings as well?
That's a fantastic question, and one we'll delve into right after this quick break. Stay tuned because we're about to explore the fascinating connection between our thoughts, emotions, and the path to greater inner peace.
So we're talking about applying this watching the thinker approach to our emotions. It feels like emotions are so immediate,
Yeah.
so visceral. Can we really observe them the same way we observe our thoughts?
Absolutely. Emotions, while powerful, are ultimately responses to our thoughts. For instance, let's say you're running late for a meeting. The thought, I'm going to be late, could trigger a cascade of feelings, anxiety,
Hmm.
stress, maybe even a bit of panic.
Oh, tell me about it. I can practically feel my heart racing just thinking about it. But if emotions are just reactions to thoughts,
Hmm.
does that mean we can actually change how we feel by changing our thinking?
That's the empowering part. By becoming aware of the thoughts that trigger our emotional responses, we can start to shift those patterns. Instead of thinking, I'm going to be late, you might choose to think, okay, I'm running a bit behind. I'll do my best to get there as quickly as possible. And if I'm a little late, it's not the end of the world.
That's a much calmer approach.
Yeah.
I can see how that would lessen the intensity of those anxious feelings.
Yeah.
But what about when we encounter people who seem to push all our buttons? It's like they have this uncanny ability to trigger our worst emotional reactions.
That's where the practice of watching the thinker becomes especially valuable. When someone triggers us, it's often because they're reflecting back to us something we don't like about ourselves, or perhaps a fear we haven't fully acknowledged.
So instead of reacting defensively,
Hmm.
we can use those moments as opportunities for self-reflection.
Exactly. It's about asking ourselves, why am I feeling so triggered right now? What is this person mirroring back to me? Mm. It's not about blaming ourselves, but about using those challenging interactions as opportunities for growth and deeper understanding.
It's like those difficult people are actually our greatest teachers, even if we wouldn't choose them as our mentors. But how do we cultivate compassion for those individuals, especially when they're behaving in ways that are hurtful or unkind?
One powerful practice is called loving kindness meditation. It involves sending thoughts of love and compassion not only to ourselves and loved ones, but also to neutral people, and even to those who challenge us.
Wait, we're supposed to send love and compassion to the people who are driving us crazy. It seems counterintuitive.
I know, it sounds strange, but it's incredibly effective. By cultivating those feelings of loving kindness, we're essentially shifting our own energy,
Yeah.
creating more inner harmony, and that inner harmony can radiate outwards, influencing our interactions with others.
So even if the other person doesn't change, we're changing our internal experience, which can ultimately lead to more peaceful interactions.
That's the beauty of it. We can't control how others behave, but we can control how we respond. And by responding with greater awareness and compassion, we're creating a more harmonious world, both within ourselves and in our relationships with others.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I'm starting to see how watching the thinker and cultivating mindfulness can lead to greater peace, freedom, and fulfillment in all areas of life.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be moments of clarity and moments of confusion, but with practice and patience, we can cultivate a deeper sense of awareness and connection to our true nature.
Well, on that note, it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of freeing yourself from your mind. Remember, you are not your thoughts, but the awareness that observes them. And within that awareness lies the potential for profound peace, joy, and freedom.
Thanks for listening to the Wellbeing Podcast. Take care, stay inspired, and see you next time.